Welcome to the March meeting of the Commission on Aging. I'd like to welcome Cynthia here from Human Services on behalf of Allie, and also Chris from At Home in Darien. Beth cannot be with us today, so I have her report. She is actually interviewing someone as we speak for purposes of the Mather Center.
Yeah.
So as a result, let's open with the February minutes. Does anybody have any questions or changes relating to those?
Nope.
Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the February minutes? Thank you. Second. Thank you. Awesome. Now, as noted, Beth can't be here today, so I'm going to do the Mather Center report, and I'm reading it, so pretend I'm Beth, and you can go from there. So, attendance is up about 80% of what it was pre-COVID. We are still limiting larger events to 60 with lunch and another 10 as audience. In the interview process for the program specialist position, we hope it to be filled by April. Continue to add new programming to keep momentum and center member suggestions. Ping pong will now be offered at the Mather Center starting in April, 2 scheduled days for the DMA, and the balance of the week for consideration of total membership use yet to be determined. Planning a spring event with At Home as well as other programs. Health and wellness. Mather of Balance / Fairfield University School of Nursing continues on Tuesdays with a full class. Waveney Life Care Network presents How to Read Food Labels. Dr. Antonio Pincon from the Hospital for Special Surgery presents Colorectal Cancer from Screening to Surgery. D. Nicole Orr from Tufts University presents How to Prevent a Heart Attack. Monthly, Monica Keaty offers a mindfulness and meditation class. And weekly 12 exercise classes. I'm sorry, I believe that's separate. Weekly, we have 12 exercise classes. Educational academic, tech help by appointment with Mary Beth Mason of the Darien Library and beginner class, beyond our virtual travel, and a whole bunch of other things which we will place in the minutes. Creative pursuits, painting with art therapist Sophie Slater from the Sheraton Home Care, creative crafting, etc., also in the minutes. Entertainment and fun, movie with a treat, Hidden Figures. There's a St. Patrick's Day luncheon and celebration with the Lynn Academy dancers. Weekly, there is Monday bingo fun, cribbage, mahjong, brain teasers, and twisters with Beth. Services, Waveney Life Care Network, Kristen Burns, RN blood pressure and health screening, first Thursday of the month. Caregiver educational support group, information and referral for family caregivers as requested and needed by appointment. Program days of 22, I assume this is the past month, or this coming month, or this current month. Family inquiries 17. Caregiver information referral 11. Human services referral 8. At Home in Darien 5. Ongoing work this month, the monthly newsletter, direct scheduling and planning, volunteer coverage for information, Seeks, office, cafe lunch, large events planning, working with at-home program committee and joint programs, discussing caregiver series for fall early evening, interview process for the new program specialist, which is where Beth is right now, late spring, early summer planning, at-home and Darien updates and consultations, statewide senior center working group and reports to the 14 Fairfield County directors. We've heard about this in the past. And meetings. There's a department head meeting, or was, on March 7th. There was also an at-home and Darien programs committee meeting on 7th. There was a statewide senior center working group meeting on March 10th. A senior center of Fairfield County directors meeting is taking place today, March 15th. And of course today's Commission on Aging meeting. And that's Beth's report. Again, though, there is additional stuff in here that we have found in previous reports that you can see when you get the minutes. Cool? I'd love to answer questions, but I'm not Beth, so therefore I will not answer questions. Moving on, Human Services report. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So there is opportunity for senior homeowners to receive a tax credit on their real estate property taxes. So applications are being accepted now and must be filed by May 15th. We are currently working on 3 protective services cases for the elderly. On March 3rd, Operation Fuel made some changes to their program. They have been so overwhelmed with applications this season that they suspended all applications for 1 month. They will reopen on April 3rd. Some of the changes that they've made. They have reduced their grants from $1,000 to $500. They're also allowing applicants to apply only once a calendar year before they had them apply twice a year. So for example, someone that applied December 19th of 2022 must now wait for December 23 to apply. Some other things that they've noticed is that more people are applying to both programs, energy assistance and Operation Fuel. So their income limits vary from both programs, but they have decided to keep their asset limits the same. So there is no asset limit. They do not look into that. So regarding energy assistance, we're still accepting applications. With the high cost of oil and electricity, we've had so many new clients apply. And clients that previously never applied for energy assistance are now applying. So last year we had total of 71 households apply, and they received a total grant of $51,000. This year, so far, we've submitted 59 applications, and the program ends in May, so we still have some time to go. And for the income limits for that program, for a single person, it's $39,000, and for a family of 4, it's $76,000. For Operation Fuel, for a single person, it's $66,000, and for a family of 4, it's $127,000. So much lower than Operation Fuel. Our medical loan closet continues to be a great resource for our Darien residents, and for those who are not familiar with it, Darien residents are able to borrow wheelchairs, transport chairs, canes, walkers, crutches. We do require a $50 refundable deposit for transport chairs and wheelchairs. On our previous quarter, we had 36 households use our loan closet, and previous to that, 26 households. But we expect higher numbers now with communions and weddings and graduations, so for the next quarter and for the summer. Darien Human Services continues to maintain the emergency call list. So we reach out to vulnerable seniors and individuals with disabilities in the community prior to and after a storm or any town-wide emergency. We reached out to everyone on Monday for the nor'easter that we had, expected on Tuesday, which luckily missed us. But we have close to 100 residents on that list. So if you know of anyone that is vulnerable or that would benefit from being on our list, please let us know and we'll gladly reach out to them. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Yes?
I just wondered for the electricity, I mean, Eversource has almost doubled their rate. Do you give the clients who apply the education about the fact that you can apply for alternate
Yes. Energize
electricity?
Yes, we tell everyone to do that.
Yep, because that is,
It's a big help,
it's
yeah.
about half price
Right.
of what Eversource is asking. Yeah.
Mhm. No, that's the first thing we ask. We look at the bill and I'm like, no, let's switch suppliers and
Yeah,
it's like
okay.
go with them
Good.
to the whole thing, yeah.
Cool. Other questions?
Well, yeah, Cynthia, with the, going back to helping them, we had somebody came in the office last week, same thing, they wanted to change, they were looking for contact information, we talked about Energize CT, to go there and look, and we kind of walked her through the different choices, and there was obviously Eversource, but Constellation, some others. She wound up calling Constellation and submitted something and then got rejected. So it was frustrating on our part. We were just trying to help her kind of navigate that process. So I don't know if there's a resource available to really help them and walk them through. I mean, we tried to get them to the right person or the right company, showed some choices, printed it out. She came back, tried to print out a couple more, got her another phone number. So I don't know if there's, I know Energize CT kind of pulls everything together, but is there a resource, a state resource that somebody could call and they can walk through?
Did she call Constellation or she just applied over?
I believe, I'm not sure. I think she showed me the rejection note, but I don't know if it was driven by a phone call or her going online.
I've never heard of anybody getting denied.
Yeah,
So that's
I didn't know, so, okay. I'll get some more information, maybe give you a
It's
call.
called Pura, that handles, Pura,
Pura?
that handles all electric,
Okay,
gas, any issues with them. And actually, when you go on to Energize CT, you'll see Pura's logo on the bottom.
okay.
For me.
But please refer that person to us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Cynthia? Hearing none, thank you so much, really appreciate it. Chris, what's going on at home in Darien?
I'm busy. You know, I think last month I gave an update, we were up 75% month, year over year, January, with the same numbers in February. So as the Mather Center's up 80%, I think that trend is continuing with some of the other services, which, great news, challenging news. You know, our drivers are extremely busy and up against some hourly limits. We thought we had a new driver who had filled out all the information, had the necessary license designation, and that has kind of been put on hold due to some other uncontrollable issues. So we've got a couple more resumes that have come through. Somebody who's at the Tully Center. You know, there's value in logos and advertising. Their car was parked in front of the Tully Center, and somebody called me and said, "I'm sitting here, I'm looking out, I see the car. Do you have paid drivers?" Well, timing is everything. So
Yeah.
that gentleman is sent an application. So we still need drivers. Looks like the trends are going to continue, so that's all a good thing. We've had increases to other services, volunteer services, membership requests. We're really up with memberships, and we're trying to do a little tour of some like Selleck Woods and others, and we've gotten a lot of new members, which is good. And our collateral material, I don't know if you've all received the Out and About, the newsletter we send, but we've received a number of calls, people requesting this, so that's still doing well. The board has been really active with the committees, and Beth touched on one of the committee activities, but the finance committee and the event committee and marketing and PR and the development committee, everybody's meeting, which is great. The board is really, really active, and that's exciting. The one service we haven't had much of is shoveling, so I guess that's a good thing. But I'd be remiss, and Cynthia as a representative, you know, for 9 months having worked with Beth and Ally, seeing the work that they do and you guys do, well, we've had a couple of real challenging situations recently, and you know, watching Beth and Ally in action is really amazing. So, you know, again, I just wanted to mention that the town is very lucky to have those two groups.
Absolutely. Very good. Great. Any other questions for Chris? Great. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Old business. Peter, what you got for us on with the legislation and the AARP?
Lots of old business. Let me start with SWACA, which, as you know, is one of the 5 areas on aging in the state of Connecticut, the Southwestern, and I sit on that advisory board. On April the 28th, SWACA is going to have its first roundtable on aging in place organizations in the 14 communities. So I did some research. 4 of the 14 communities have aging in place organizations. They've never covered it. They're going to do a roundtable. I'm going to lead a discussion. It's going to be Zoomed, and lots of folks are going to be getting invites. And again, I would encourage participation there. Again, just to raise the visibility of the connections. You know, SWACA focused primarily on senior centers, but there's a lot more that SWACA has responsibilities for. So I think that's a good first step. Related to that, the 5 areas on aging are going to have a summit conference, the first face-to-face conference on October the 30th. There's going to be probably more than 300 people. It's going to be up at AquaTurf. And again, the 5 areas are putting together an agenda looking at aging in place and disability programs. And again, I'm going to be on that as helping develop that program. So I think these are important things to kind of pull ourselves, again, up out of our silos, if you will, and look at how we can effectively work together. This town does a great job. There's lots of other towns where this kind of cumulative activity could work. So that's SWACA. Beth's not here, and the statewide senior center task force, as you all know, there's funding available through ARPA of $10 million, and the formulas have been put forth to the towns. Again, I sit as an intern on that board. Our allocation, I believe, is in the neighborhood of $40,000. And the first cut of it, I would be very nervous about. I'll be perfectly candid with you, because what the town is talking about is using that fund to enhance the HVAC system over the senior center. And that money is earmarked for innovation and enhancement of senior center programs. So that's going out the door. I've just heard this. I'm not lending a lot of credibility to it, but I'm concerned about it, and again, I raise it, and I'm sure Beth would raise it if she were here. But again, this is where we need to have oversight and make sure that the funding that we have is properly applied. There's a lot of money sitting around in Hartford these days, and I'm going to transition to that by just showing you and giving you. I asked the ARP yesterday for what the legislative activities are. And for our absent secretary, whom I usually hand this to, and to Joe, and I'm just going to talk very briefly about this. You will see on this memo an incredible list of bills. House bills, Senate bills, hearings, consolidations, things starting to come out. You show the one that was interesting to this committee, the HB 5917, the Vision Zero project for safe streets and communities. That's moving forward, but I'm just going to read you through some of these. An act concerning nursing home transparency, expanding access to the Alzheimer's disease respite program, implementing the recommendations of the Home Care Companion Task Force, an act concerning nursing staffing ratios, an act concerning banning pay for delay. And what that means is it's a bill dealing with access to affordable generic drugs. So just reading the labels doesn't tell you really what's in these bills. Act concerning pharmacy benefits managers and drug affordability. Acts concerning qualifying transit-oriented communities. This would be financial highlights, financial incentives that might be given to communities that tie themselves into transit-related programs. Drug affordability, and then as Anna said, other bills awaiting committee votes, an act promoting accessible, affordable prescription drugs, healthcare coverage, transparency in healthcare, home and community-based support for vulnerable people, and rights regarding gender identity and expression. There's a bill right now, for example, that's taking a look at gender expression and identity. There's a second page, act expanding Connecticut paid sick days, act establishing a personal income tax deduction for the cost of home health care. That would be a program where there's right now a $50,000 cap, of raising that to a $60,000 cap. And it just goes on and on and on. The point being, there's a lot of activity. We ought to be aware of what our interests are and who we are trying to help either defend or advance, and we need to keep our focus on this.
Based upon last month's meeting, I've been staying on top of 5917, in touch with Peter. Peter gave me the contacts for certain legislators who are people of those, and they were both contacted expressing our desire to have these move forward. When there is another committee hearing, I intend to testify at that. And I'm still staying on top of that. There's a bunch of interesting websites out there which allow you to track these things, which I never knew about until
Yes, there are.
this thing, so that's interesting. So I will keep you posted, and thank you, Peter, for keeping us posted. Anything else?
Yeah, there are some other
Sure.
things as well. Day before yesterday, came across a University of Michigan, they do great work in the national polls on health and aging. And this is trends in loneliness among older adults from 2018 to 2023. And what it shows is, you know, in 2018, which is when they started this work, it was 27%. And then, of course, it spiked during COVID to 56%. It fell to 46%, moved to 44%. And if today we say we're kind of out of COVID, it's 34%. So it's interesting that the isolation and loneliness is still increasing. And again, you read a report like this, what does it say? It says that you need senior centers, you need aging in place organizations, you need human resources, you need to get people reconnected, not just in their community, but in their home as well. So again, the need just seems to increase as, of course, our age increases. Darien Library, tax returns are going to continue until Monday, April the 17th, so we're about a month away from close. Last time I looked, we had 700 completed filings. And for the first time this week, we had a few vacancies on the slots, but we had 60 slots filled every Monday, Friday, and Saturday. So that need continues. And then one final thing. See the Stanford Advocate on Monday article, Darien considers limiting extra living units. And again, I'll just read you the first paragraph. It's by Molly Hirsch. After adopting out of state law permitting in-law apartments and granny pads as a way to increase affordable housing, Darien officials are now discussing what a town-specific approval process would look like for those accessory dwelling units. And again, you know, as a older adult, I find it quite offensive that they continue to refer to things as granny pads. I mean, if it were for LGBTQ community, it would not be gay pads, would it? No. So again, to be sensitive to it, but again, to know that this is going on. So again, lots of battles just continue to unfold.
Who is looking at that, the Board of Selectmen, or who are?
B&C.
Planning
Planning and zoning. Sue, planning and zoning.
Mm-hmm. They talked about it a lot last week at their meeting, last
Right.
Tuesday. It was actually worthwhile watching it. It's
Yeah,
kind of technical. what
I'll
they're
add
allowed, what
just a
they're not
personal
allowed.
comment, and, you know, I look at these battles, and yet I drive by Middlesex, I drive down Middlesex Avenue almost every day, and so there was a little cape that was there, and now it's replaced by this enormous 3-story structure that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm wondering, so here we are taking a piece of property, a small piece of property, it was a cape, we're putting on this huge home, and yet we cringe and worry about accessory units and what it's doing. I mean, we really need to, in my opinion, have even more of a focus town-wide on housing needs. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Any questions for Peter? On the P&Z front, Steve Olvaney is planning on joining us in May, so we can talk more about these accessory dwelling units with him at that time. I've also been in communication with him relating to his walkability project. And one of the big questions, to be blunt, is funding. And that is, where are we going to get funding for the sidewalks? Where are we going to get funding for what we need to do on the post road? And some of that is slightly on hold because there's a major transit bill that's going through the legislature right now, in which it is highly likely to pass, but it will have exceptions where towns can opt out, okay? But if they opt out, they may opt out of all transportation funding, which obviously affects our ability to fund this walkability project. So at some level, the timing on this is pretty good in that in May, we'll know a little bit more about this, okay? and we can focus our energy, because one of the biggest questions is gonna be, where do we find the funding? Obviously, some private landlords will help out, I'm sure of that, right? Landowners, I should say. Will the state be available? Don't know. Will the town be available? Another huge question, right? Because of course, we've got a lot of things we've recently done, including buying the Ziegler's property, right? So will there be tolerance for going to the town to say, okay, we need funds to put in a new sidewalk here on the post road, or whatever other things that are needed for this walkability project? That's gonna take some grease on the wheel to try to make happen. Or can we still get funds from the state for this? This will depend on that legislation, because if we're cut out, but Steve's got some great contacts that he's given me in Greenwich and in Westport, where we've seen some successful things that have happened there. So I'm being in touch with those folks, but we are kind of in a waiting game, because I don't, as I told Steve, I don't like banging my head against a wall.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing a whole procedure to try to get state funding, and then Darian says, no, we don't want it, right? That's not where I want to be. I want to make sure that this wonderful pot of funds is actually there before I start the process of trying to get it. So we'll see more about that from Steve in May. I'd love to have had him in either this meeting or April, but he's tied up until May, so we'll grab him in May. Other old business?
Well, one thing is Palmer's, that project's moving ahead.
Yeah.
Demolition started a couple weeks ago. And their permits were allowed to extend for 1 year, so they didn't have any issues there. So it's starting finally, the
That's
blight.
great. Yeah, precisely. Well, the long story short is they were able to sell that property to I think the person they were working with, the co-developer. So that's great.
Yeah.
That it all worked out, so they were able to clean up that issue
area.
there. Exactly.
And I don't know if you wanted a report from the Blight Commission,
Please.
since I'm the rep there. We have about 8 houses on our blight list. Happily, 2 of them have transferred off. One was, the bank ended up selling. It was put on multiple lists and is sold. And I don't think no, it has closed. And the other one was was next to the Palmer property, and that was raised. So we've got 2 off the list, and fortunately we have 1 additional house that's just joined the list. As far as just trying to check in, I think there may be only 2 that are not what I would consider elderly, and 1 that we're trying to propose the town get on their list is an elderly owner, but they don't seem to live there. So we're not, I'm trying to be eyes and ears as to how we're affecting the elderly in this process, but I think we're moving along properly.
Thank you, Sue. That's exactly why we have somebody on that Blight Commission, to keep an eye on when there are senior issues with, whether it's, a house that has issues, hoarding, whatever the issue may be. So it's really helpful too. And I assume that if in fact you have one of these seniors, that they're either in Cynthia and Allie's thing, or they're...
Happily, Ally sits on this commission as
wonderful.
well, so
Okay.
she knows more about the individual needs. The new house that's just come up, she isn't aware of. So
Fair enough.
she'll be looking into that.
Yeah, because that's why when they suggested that we have a blight board, that was our commission's major concern, which was, wait a minute, right? How many of these will affect seniors, and how do we do it? So what we've been very blessed with Jim, you, and Peter, is that we've been able to, at least so far, not have any quote-unquote senior nightmares where things have happened, because we are walking slowly through these issues and making sure we can get the seniors the help they need. So the irony of ironies from our initial concern is this has actually been a good thing, right? At some level, we're actually maybe potentially identifying more seniors who may need help, that because people are concerned about what's happening in their house and reporting it to the Blight Board. So we'll see, but I really appreciate you sitting on that. Thank you. Great. Other old business? New business? Hearing none. none, can I have a motion to approve the conclusion of the March meeting? Thank you, Peter, second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. See you guys in April. Thanks so much for coming.